Thanks, Riyaz. 7:18. Almost everyone who lost power in last week's massive windstorm has the lights on again. BC Hydro says 99% of customers have power back, but around the south coast, some 7,000 people are still in the dark. The southern Gulf Islands were hit hardest in last Thursday's storm. Power is still being restored in that area. The utility provider says more than 900 crew are working around the clock to repair the system. All customers on the Gulf Islands should have power back between tomorrow and New Year's Eve. Another dire warning tied to climate change and how we can expect to notice it here at home. Within the next 50 years, about 80% of Western Canada's mountain glaciers are expected to disappear due to climate change. Experts say the region is a Canadian hotspot for warming. Peyto Glacier in Banff National Park has lost 70% of its mass over the past half century. Rapid melt creates a domino effect with higher sea levels and dust bowls in dry areas where the ice is no longer melting. People in Indonesia now face a new threat after a devastating tsunami.
Home is still a distant dream for survivors of Indonesia's weekend tsunami, who are trying to come to terms with the destruction left behind. At the same time, they're living with the fear of more tragedy on the anniversary of the 2004 Asian earthquake and tsunami. People who live near an island volcano responsible for the deadly waves that hit communities along the Sunda Strait on Saturday night are being told to avoid the coast today, as extreme weather and a second disaster is still possible.
Indonesia's meteorology agency is warning people to stay up to 1 kilometer away from the coastline. And they say that they're watching the volcano very closely, which, when it erupted the first time, created underwater landslides, which in turn caused those deadly tsunami waves. That's what they fear will happen again. But they say all this rainy weather is making the volcano even more vulnerable.
I'm really afraid if a tsunami happens again, she says. I always feel afraid every time water rises. And if it rains, it will flood too. The rain warning is also slowing efforts to collect hundreds of bodies. More than 400 people have been killed.
Construction workers trying to put together a bridge to get access to some of the otherwise inaccessible areas that have been cut off. And here you can see an excavator and a working crew trying to put together pieces of concrete that will help provide access to some of those areas.
Everyone is devastated, he says. People are looking for family members, trying to collect lost belongings and seeing what's left of their homes. The tsunami struck without warning, surprising people even in a country that has suffered its worst annual death toll from disasters in more than a decade. It's still a sharp contrast to the earthquake that rocked parts of Sumatra Island the morning after Christmas exactly 14 years ago, creating massive waves that killed more than 220,000 people in 14 countries. The disaster was among the worst in recent history.
An ongoing eruption of Mount Etna, Europe's biggest and most active volcano, has triggered a 4.8 magnitude earthquake in Sicily. Nearly 30 people suffered injuries. None are believed to be serious. The quake forced people to flee their homes, prompting them to sleep in their cars. Several century-old churches appear to have sustained most of the damage. Officials say the quake was felt strongly because it was relatively shallow. Mount Etna erupted on Christmas Eve, sending a huge column of ash into the sky. In a move that reverses decades of policy, Japan will resume commercial whaling next year and quit the International Whaling Commission. Japanese officials say the withdrawal will come into effect at the end of June. The decision has sparked international criticism. Lawmakers in the Prime Minister's party have lobbied for a resumption of commercial whaling, arguing most whale species are not endangered, and eating whale meat is part of Japan's culture. Government officials say whaling will be limited to the country's own territorial waters. Calgary's Syrian community is coming together for its second year of holiday blood drives.
Especially for the newcomers, it was the easiest way for them to show their appreciation for the country that opened this door for them.
In Syrian culture, it can be symbolic and one of the highest forms of loyalty. That's why Syrian Canadians here are giving back by rolling up their sleeves during a time when Canadian Blood Services says there's a risk of shortages.
It's been almost 2 years since the Calgary Immigrant Support Society began these blood drives, and while the response has been tremendous, organizers say they're working with Canadian Blood Services to accommodate a lot more community members who want to give back but are not able to.
It's very, very challenging for them because you have to speak completely fully on your own in order to do the interview and answer the questions, and we are not allowed to bring our own interpreters. So that really put a lot of restrictions. So from every 100, probably we're down to only 5 who can donate.
25 people gave blood today, many of them newcomers responding to a call for donations during the holiday season.
A lot of car accident happened here. A lot of guys need blood in this time of year. So I come here to help my brothers and sisters.
I think it's a good way to show our love to Canada.
It's a great job, in my opinion. It's perfect, and I wish really Merry Christmas for all.
The organization says statutory holidays this month will impact the supply of platelets, an important blood component with a 7-day shelf life that's commonly used to treat cancer patients. This group will be back New Year's Day with new donors and in April for Syrian Canadian Donation Day. It says the events helped bring attention to the need for minorities to give blood.
And the Syrian community donated, now the Filipino community want to donate, and that kind of stuff. As I said, it's a healthy competition, and it's really needed because in the end, we all, I think, have a desire to do something good.
Canadian Blood Services is encouraging more than 30,000 donors across the country to book and keep their appointments up until January 6. In Calgary, Crystal Ladarius, City News.
Something I haven't done in a while, but it's always a good reminder to do it this time of year.
It certainly is. Yeah, thank you for that. Great story. I love that one, Mary. And we'll look at your weather.